Let's talk some sports, baby.
Taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry. Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by
And remember, make tomorrow better than today, and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
And a big payday. Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey won't be needing his stimulus check because he just inked a 4-year, $64 million extension with the Panthers. Former 8th overall pick is now football's highest paid running back, averaging $16 million a year, surpassing Zeke Elliott's $15 million per year. McCaffrey earned All-Pro and Pro Bowl honors in 2019, thanks to becoming just the third running back in NFL history to go over 1,000 yards both rushing and receiving. Head coach Matt Rule said McCaffrey is a centerpiece player that you can build around. So Drink, big-time player with a big-time contract. How do you grade his extension?
Hey, listen. For all the negative comments and the negative backlash that running backs get because of the short, lifespan of them, and they're not that important, and you could draft them late in the draft, and you don't really need a running back. This is a passing league and all that good jazz. Listen, I'm glad Carolina finally said, hey, man, you've been doing a justice to us in your 3 years of being here. You done got better every year. And we think you deserve to get paid as such. You looking to be our cornerstone, because let's be real here. You don't get rid of Cam Newton if you don't have Christian McCaffrey. Say what you want, but if you had some run-of-the-mill running back there, you ain't getting rid of Cam Newton. So being that you had a generational talent in the backfield, you decided to get rid of your generational talent that you had at quarterback. And that such, you decided to make him, as of now, you gave him the richest running back contract to this point. Now, what I would say to people is this. Listen, I'm not saying that Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the NFL. That's not what I said. I just said he deserves the contract that he got. Now, we know how the NFL rolls. I would not be surprised if this contract lasts a month or two and then some other running back get paid. You just never know. That's how the money get thrown around sometimes. So I think he deserves it. Why do I think he deserves it? Well, he's been in the league 3 years. Just walk with me a little bit. We got 2017, 2018, 2019. Every year he was in the NFL, he played all 16 games. All 16 games for 3 years stretch. For a running back, that is pretty doggone phenomenal. For any NFL player, that's pretty doggone phenomenal. For a running back, that's top shelf. All right, that's Johnny Walker Blue Label. Now, if you want to go on pure running stats, all right, 2017, he had 117 attempts for 435 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 fumble, which he did not lose. In 2018, the very next year, this is what I mean by the progression. He progressed every year. You have to pay that attention. In 2018, in the rushing department, 219 attempts for 1,098 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 fumbles. All right, cool. And he didn't lose them. In 2019, 287 attempts for 1,387 yards, 15 touchdowns, and one fumble. Listen, so he went from 117 attempts to 219 attempts to 287 attempts. He went for 435 yards 1 year to 1,098 1 year to 1,387. 2 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, 15. So for whatever you want to say, the guy has improved every single year. Oh, hold on, baby. I ain't even get to the receiving. Let's talk about the receiving then. All right then. So in 2017, 80 catches, which I might add, he got targeted 113 times, but he caught 80 of them for 651 yards, 5 touchdowns. Okay, hey, hold my drink. Let's talk about 2018. No problem. 107 receptions, got targeted 124 times for 867 yards and 6 touchdowns. Okay, hey, give me something a little better. We need a little more, Christian. All right, I got you, man. 2019, 116 receptions on 142 targets for 1,005 yards and four touchdowns, but the scrimmage yards picked that up. Did I say scrimmage? I guess I did say scrimmage. Let's talk about scrimmage yards. Oh, okay. So when we move on to scrimmage yards, in 17, he had 1,086 scrimmage yards. In 2018, he had 1,965 scrimmage yards. Okay. And then in 2019, he had 2,392 scrimmage yards. So, once again, in all three stats, no matter how you fold them up, whether it's rushing, passing, or just total scrimmage yards, the guy got good. He got better every single year. You can't ask for more than that. You cannot ask for a young man to come in this NFL, this passing league, and get better in all three phases every year. He don't cause you no headache. He's not out here cutting a fool. But then once that happened, then you get you get these questions, and I'll wait until we get the follow-on question before I dive in this more. But listen, at the end of the day, he definitely deserves his money. It's no doubt about it. The guy's been a class act. He don't cut a fool, and he's listen. I just gave you the proof was in the pudding. He's been good all 3 years. So miss me with that crap. I'm talking to fans, not you guys. But miss me with all that smoke saying he don't deserve it. He definitely deserves it. And I don't want to hear about that he might be of the lighter complexion. That's why. No, he's playing his ass off. That's why. He's an actual good NFL running back. So, yes, he definitely deserved that contract.
Yeah, this is when you look at what Christian McCaffrey's done over the last 3 seasons, and I like how you broke it down as far as his progression from his rookie season, kind of getting in the flow. They didn't ask him to do, he wasn't a guy that carried the whole load. You still had Cam Newton handling a fair share of the rushing duties. But as he's progressed, and now you're looking at a guy last year who toted the football 287 times and then caught another 116 passes. That's 403 total touches. People forget last season when the Panthers were 5-3 and treading water in an NFC playoff race before they nosedived and lost their last 8 games. Christian McCaffrey was being viewed as a potential MVP candidate. So when we take that in consideration, I don't think there's any surprise that this is what the Carolina Panthers did. The only way you look at it as a surprise is when you view the running back position in the NFL as a whole. This is because this is an anomaly. We don't typically see this nowadays because there's some running backs that have kind of screwed this up. You don't see a lot of long-term deals for running backs. The difference though here is the Panthers. This guy is about to enter the 4th year of his rookie contract at the age of 23 years old. And the Panthers, they could have played a rope-a-dope type thing where they just let him run out his contract and then franchise him a couple times and then just go ahead and get somebody else. That's what they could have done.
Hit him with the Derrick Henry.
Right. Instead, I like this. They bucked that trend because this whole thing where running backs don't matter and, you don't want to draft them high in the draft and you don't want to pay them and they break down at the age of 29 to 30. These are myths built to put running backs in a disadvantage and give the advantage to franchises who can get running backs on the cheap. That's what this is. So I like that the Panthers, and I also give a little bit of love to the Cowboys for paying Zeke last year because these 2 running backs are going to buck that trend. They're going to be productive for a long time. They're going to earn their contracts. The only concern I would have is when you talk about 400 touches in a season, you got to take great care in not wearing this guy down too fast. You have to make sure that he survives the length of this contract. And 400 touches a season, that's tough. That's tough to do, especially at his size. So the Panthers do have to take some care in how they manage him going forward. But when you bring up his durability, he's not a headache off the field. He's a class act. You never hear anything bad about him. And you combine that with his production and how he was an MVP candidate, it would have been very interesting if Carolina hadn't been able to maintain let's just say they go 10-6 last year. I don't think he can win the MVP because of how Lamar Jackson played. Lamar Jackson was just too fantastic, and he plays the quarterback position. But outside of any quarterback, I mean, the only other player that you could argue was more valuable or on the level of Christian McCaffrey is Michael Thomas. And at the running back position, Christian McCaffrey was the best running back out there, and he was the most valuable. When you combine what he does as a runner and as a receiver, nobody else is in his class with what he does.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not quite as high as you guys, and my gripe isn't so much with McCaffrey himself. You guys have already laid it out tremendously. The guy he's absolutely just perfect on the field as far as his production goes. It's off the charts. Off the field, he doesn't mess around. He's straight up, clean guy, does his deal. He's professional. And I really like that Carolina reached out and said, hey man, we're going to take care of you now. We're not going to go jerk you off for 2 years. And also it's all worth noting that when you're rebuilding your team and you're looking for your new identity, getting a guy like McCaffrey and saying that's who we're building around. Fans, that's who we're building around. Team, that's who we're building around. You get that leader, you get a good draft pick that's produced for you, and you reach out and you say, hey, we're making this guy the face of our franchise. I like all those things a lot. But I will say, when we talk about the business side of it, paying a running back $16 million, I just don't think is good business. It's not. When you think about it, okay, let's think about who else is making this kind of money. Well, Zeke makes $15 million a year. Le'Veon Bell makes $13 million. Henry makes 10 on the franchise tag. And then Melvin Gordon and Kenyon Drake make $8 million. So with the exception of 3 or 4 guys, you are paying Christian McCaffrey double what most other running backs are making, what most teams are spending on their running backs. It's no different than the Chiefs said, hey, Pat, man, we really like you. So we think instead of $30 million, which is about what the upper tier is for most quarterbacks, we're going to pay you $60. I mean, that'd be cool, but can you really afford to pay someone double? I mean, is he really double productive as the other running backs in his tier? I mean, I would say he's as productive, if not a little bit more than most of them, but is he really worth double what most of them are making? And that's kind of the problem, is you can't just look at his value on the face itself. You have to look at the position's value across the league, because everybody plays the same salary cap and the same bundle of money. And when you give a bunch of extra money to one position, you're taking it away from somewhere else. And I mean, you can also, some people have poked holes in some of his stats as far as, he's had 15 double-digit receiving target games, and they've only won one of those games. So, but I think that those stats you can push back on and say, well, the team around him wasn't playing very well. So I don't really buy the whole, well, it's just garbage time stats. So I think that's what's hard about it is him himself, as far as does he deserve it? Yeah. Does his stats deserve it? Yeah. But in this league, and again, we're talking about a league where you're not running into stacked boxes as much. You're running more spread offense, and a lot of more running backs can give you good production without needing to be quite elite. So I get it. I mean, I like that they paid him. And if you think that he's worth maybe that $4 or $5 million difference from what most running backs would be making to what he's making because of what he means to the team, I'm all for it. But as far as a pure business perspective, I'm a little on it, but I hope he does well. I like him. He's a fun guy. I hope he does well and continue to build on his success. So
yeah, so
this kind of prompts go ahead.
And here's the thing on that. I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you, because you're looking at it from the franchise perspective, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we do got to remember that when you're absolutely right, salary cap league, when you pull that much more money into a running back, it's taken away from other parts of the team. But one thing, the Panthers, you got to remember this. They paying Teddy Bridgewater significantly below what the average quarterback is making. So when you combine what Bridgewater's making, who's, I don't know, we're not going to confuse him with a top 10 quarterback. I don't even know if he's top 20 at this point. So they got a quarterback making below average money. So you put that extra money into who was an MVP candidate at one point last season in your running back. I think it kind of averages out. It does go against the grain. It absolutely does. But, I mean, you also got to remember, the Cowboys set the market with Ezekiel Elliott making $15 million a year. So, I mean, you got to believe if the Panthers were going to do this, and based on how he's performed, and he's only 23, we can't forget that, they were going to have to go up a little bit. And they only went up by $1 million per year. I don't think that's too big of an L. I think it's a good contract.
All right, well, let's go ahead. Go ahead, Drink. What you got?
Oh, no. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you, so kind of following up with the running back question. Let's go ahead and you'll want to run down your top 5 running backs. We'll start with you on this one, Drink. Just what we got right now.
Yeah, so pull up this handy dandy graphic here. So, I had to go with Saquon, the Beast Barkley. Listen, this is the deal. Like, before I roll into this, I did want to say, when we say best, make no mistake, this is from what we see, how we research, how we break down the game. I'm not saying that Jay top 5 is wrong, George top 5 is wrong, whatever the case might be. This is my top 5. So before we start a riot out here, let's start, the fires in the streets. So number 1, I got Saquon Barkley, the running back for the New York Giants. Let's be real here. You don't go out and draft a player like Daniel Jones without knowing you got a stalwart in the backfield that can probably make him look good on some days if he's not getting the job done. Knowing you don't really have wide receivers, you don't trade an Odell Beckham unless you got a guy like Saquon Barkley in the backfield. So that's my number 1 guy. Ezekiel Elliott, yes, I know he was down last season, but let's be real here. Go look back for the last 3 or 4 years. You look at the top of each stat for running backs, and I guarantee you're going to find one Ezekiel Elliott in those stats. Yes, he did tail off a little bit. You just never know what played into that. We'll see how they go this year. If we have it this year, fingers crossed. We'll see how they go. So I think he will get back on that. My number 3 is the guy that we just mentioned, Christian McCaffrey. Here's the deal. I cannot ignore the fact that this guy has gotten better every year. He's also a guy that he's going through a transition right now. New head coach, new offense coordinator, new owner, and then he's going to have a new quarterback come when the season begins, and he's still carrying himself like a class act. Jay said it. That team was an abomination, and he still got up every Sunday and made it happen. So I can't overlook that. My number 4 guy, bit of a down year for him, but I went with Alvin Kamara. Listen, the running back for the New Orleans Saints. Jay made an interesting point for me because I asked him, I looked at his top 5, and I did ask him a question, and he made an interesting point about Kamara. When we seen him coming in as the number 1 back this year, we thought we was going to see the same flash that we seen when he was sharing the backfield with Mark Ingram. We did not see that. Now, there could have been a number of things. There could have been Drew Brees got hurt. I don't know. Could have been the fact that he was dealing with a lot of injuries. He was very injury prone this year. So we never really see him get into 6th gear this year. I'm hoping that is what we'll see in this coming year. Right now, he's still in my top 5. We'll see. Because from what I have seen, hey, the guy's phenomenal. Him and Christian McCaffrey, when it comes to making them plays like they do in between the tackles, outside the tackles, the thing about both of those guys I like was they're smaller body running backs, and people when they got drafted, people challenged and they said these guys are too small to run in between the tackles. See, Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott didn't run into those problems because of their size and their frame. So I did commend Kamara for what he had done in between the tackles while he's been in that offense. I would like to see more. I hope to see more, but that's my number 4. And then number 5 is Derrick Henry. Let's be real here. I look at all 5 of these guys on my list. The only reason Derrick Henry is number 5 is simply because you can't tell me where he at before week 7 week 7, between week 1 and 7, Derrick Henry is dead, or he's like somewhere on vacation. I don't know. He's on emergency leave. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's not like tangible. He's not on the field. If he's on the field, he's not on the field. That's the best I can put it. I don't know where he's at. Now, if you go from week 7 to playoffs or week 7 to week 16 and you want to give me that, then I'll be like, yeah, he's the best second half player the NFL got. He really is. But can I get 17 games? Not 17 games. Can I get 16 games? Can I get a full sample size Derrick Henry? And I would say this is probably the reason that helped you get franchise tag. We're not blind. Well, I'm kind of blind. I do work. But we've seen what you did in the playoffs. That wasn't Tannehill. But at the same time, you can't justify getting paid if you only play half a season. I mean, technically, you should be running good in the playoffs because you only play half a season. So, Derrick Henry, that's my number 5. But out of these 5 guys, I've not seen no one carry a team like Derrick Henry has. That run he made in his last playoff, that was something. That was remarkable. But availability is your best ability. So with that said, my 5 is Barkley, Elliott, McCaffrey, Kamara, and Henry.
Yeah, the interesting thing about when you talk about running backs, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. The definition of, the criteria for, being a top running back today is a little different than what it was, 10, 15 years ago when receiving skills, it wasn't necessarily, a big thing if you didn't catch a lot of passes. Now there's a much more emphasis on being versatile and doing those type of things. And I was surprised when I looked back at it, but after looking at it, I think Christian McCaffrey, I got him as a top back in the league right now based on what he's done. Just you think about this. He's one of 3 players. There's only 2 running backs prior to this that had 1,000 yards rushing in a season and 1,000 yards receiving. The other 2 would be Roger Craig and Marshall Faulk. So he is in that select company in terms of all-purpose yardage and being able to catch the ball out of the backfield and run the football. And then his 303 receptions in his first 3 seasons is most all time, the most catches any running back has ever had in their first 3 seasons. So in terms of his pass catching alone, I mean, he's an elite guy, but he can also get it done on the ground. You think about him as, only a guy who can do things in space, but I mean, people found out pretty quickly he could get it done in between the tackles. Not as much of a physical force as some other guys, such as a Derrick Henry, but he gets the job done. Number 2, I got Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, ever since he didn't come into the league, he's been the driving force of the Dallas Cowboys. It all starts with that offensive line and then Zeke running right behind him. And, that he's had some off-field issues, here and there, but when he's on the field, he's productive. And, he's been amongst the league leaders, week in and week out running the football. And again, one of the things I'm looking at, and I say this from time to time, he gets paid, and then the Cowboys all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they want to be, throw it all over the football field offense. And hey, Dak Prescott, you got 50 throws in you today? All right, cool. Zeke, you got 10 carries. That's neat. And no coincidence. They go 8-8 and can't make the playoffs. Saquon Barkley at number 3. I think if I made a list of my most talented backs, he'd probably be number 1. I think the best is yet to come from Saquon. I think the Giants being pretty awful the last several years, it's probably why I've got him a little bit down. And I haven't seen a whole lot of Saquon because I don't watch the Giants a whole lot at all. So there's probably a little bit of bias there. But his talent is undeniable. His ability to make people miss in the open field when he's in space, he's a nightmare. So. But he's got to be on this list purely for his talent alone. I got Derrick Henry at number 4. I think he's probably the most interesting case in all these running backs because, I don't think we've ever seen a season yet in his NFL career where we've seen him dominate wire to wire. And we know he's a great finisher. Now he's a finisher during the season as the season goes along, and he's a finisher in the red zone. And the way he performed in the playoffs last season, just carrying the Tennessee Titans to wins over the Patriots and Ravens, that alone should have gotten him a multi-year contract. I think it's absolutely criminal that the Tennessee Titans didn't pay this man, and they invested in Ryan Tannehill, who threw for about 150 yards in 2 playoff games. I think it's an absolute travesty. But you also got to look at, when I talk about versatility, hasn't been used a whole lot in the passing game. I don't think that's a sense that he can't do that. I think he can be an effective pass catcher. We also got to take in consideration, maybe it was because you had a guy like Deion Lewis in the backfield, and you could utilize him in that role a little bit. You don't have him. I'd like to see Henry be more involved in that respect. But pound for pound, when you talk about strictly running the football, I think you flip a coin between him and Ezekiel Elliott at this point. And then my number 5 running back is Dalvin Cook. Another guy, when I look at what makes an offense go, similar to Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott, the Minnesota Vikings offense. Everything was set up last season by Dalvin Cook. When you took him out, when you were able, the rare occasions where you were able to contain him, the Minnesota Vikings struggled on offense. But when he succeeded, the Vikings had success because of his success. So with those things in mind, These are my top 5: Christian McCaffrey, Zeke Elliott, Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief in the interest of time here, but I have Elliott number 1 because I'm rewarding the consistency. I think he's been a great runner, and also he's just been real consistent. When he's on the field and he's producing, he's been the most productive back in the league. I mean, going back the last couple of years. I do have McCaffrey number 2, these guys are probably 1 and 2 at 1A, 1B, you could say. But when I think of pure running back, I just think Elliott has a slight edge, but it's really close, and we just talked all about him. I have Saquon 3. The injuries kind of hurt him a little bit. Like I said, I still think we haven't seen the best of Saquon yet in terms of pure talent. I'd have him 1, but overall I have him 3. I agree with y'all about Derrick Henry. I have him at number 4. Just haven't seen enough of it yet for sustained seasons. But yeah, if he keeps up that second half performance, he's going to be number 1 pretty quick. And then I have Josh Jacobs, the Raiders, at 5. I just think this guy's going to be an absolute star. I know the sample size is small. We only have 1 season, but man, everything that you see from him just looks like he's a guy that's going to be really good for a long time. And I think his talent carries him, for me, to the top 5. But, he's right there around with Dalvin Cook and a couple other guys. It's close, but just want to throw him in there to spice it up a little bit.